Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of our show Popcorn Feed here at My Comic Universe.
Welcome back. It's a brand new year here at Popcorn Feed.
Happy New Year, everybody. I'm your host, Steve.
I'm your other host, Brian.
And today we're going to be talking about the upcoming film Glass, as well as the upcoming third season of the show True Detective. But first, if you haven't, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media.
And of course, stick around for the very end of our episode. We do have a Blu-ray and 4K recommendation for you.
That's right.
So, our first topic today, Steve, of course, is Glass.
That's right.
The 2019 film by none other than M. Night Shyamalan.
That's right.
Good for you.
That comes out on January 18th, which is right around the corner.
It's really, like, right around the corner. I'm really excited to see this, actually. I'm very interested in this whole setup he's built for this universe.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us to why we're here today is, what's this universe all about? Is it related to comic books? Is it not related to comic books? What is the tie? And how did M. Night Shyamalan come up with this combating comic book superhero universe of his to go up against the big dogs like Disney and Marvel or Warner Brothers and DC?
Well, that's actually a really interesting point that you brought up, because it's taken 19 years for M. Night Shyamalan to come out with this trilogy.
Interesting.
The first film was, of course, Unbreakable, which came out in 2000, just shortly after the success of The Sixth Sense. And then 16 years later, we got Split. And now, to culminate the whole effort, we're getting Glass in a few weeks.
Interesting. So it seems like, and if you're not familiar, so Unbreakable came out in 2000. It was from Blind Edge Productions did it. And if you're not familiar with some of their work, they also did The Village. And they've been working with M. Night for a few years now on a lot of his films for producing his early work. But it wasn't until Split that he switched up to Blumhouse Productions, which you may be familiar with some of their titles. They did Get Out, they did the Insidious films. So then he moved over there and he was able to bring forth this new film in 2016 for Split, which was pretty cool.
Well, what's really interesting too, what I found out was that originally the idea was to have James McAvoy's character, Kevin Crumb, in Unbreakable. Originally in the original script for Unbreakable.
Oh, really?
He was one of the emerging villains that David Dunn, which is Bruce Willis's character, was going to face off against. But M. Night Shyamalan could never get it to work within the context of just one movie. So that's why he had to come out with the second movie just for Kevin Crumb's character. And this third film is basically putting everything back together.
Okay, so it's connecting the three individuals. We're looking at the mastermind and Mr. Glass. We're looking at the overseer here and David Dunn's character. And then, of course, we have the collective or the hive and
the Horde.
The Horde.
The
Horde in Kevin Crumb's character,
right,
which is really cool. The trilogy is actually called the East Trail 177 trilogy, which is based off of the Unbreakable film's opening scene where David Dunn is the sole survivor of the train crash, and the train is East Trail 177.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we were talking about the fact that this was originally wasn't quite based off of an original individual comic book series. But it was based on, but he was influenced, M. Night Shyamalan was influenced by several comic books.
Yes, that's right. He drew inspiration from a few different titles, including Saga, this is going to be a mouthful, Forbidden Brides of the Faceless Slaves, and The Secret House of the Night of Dread Desire.
Wow.
Which is a hell of a title for a comic book.
That really is.
But also, he drew inspiration from Sandcastle, Paper Girls, Day Tripper, and Last Look.
So he was definitely influenced by writer Brian K. Vaughan's work, for sure. That gave him a lot. And Brian also did Y the Last Man as well. So, well, that's interesting to find that out for sure.
Well, I'm excited to see the way that it's all going to be brought back together. I like the fact that M. Night Shyamalan started with this idea that was just too big for one movie, so he had to actually create this whole universe for it, by giving Kevin Crumb his own film in Split, and then bringing everyone back together again in Glass. So we finally get to see David Dunn face off against Kevin Crumb's character, the Beast.
Yeah,
which
the
is,
Beast.
which is his 24th personality.
Right, the one that invaded at the very last personality to invade his psyche, right?
Exactly, and the one that we see at the end of Split as well.
Pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to this. Honestly, like I said, I've read a lot of Brian K. Vaughan stuff. I'm a fan of Saga. I'm a fan of Paper Girls. So I'm really looking forward to this film overall. But really, we want to ask you, our audience, what do you think of this upcoming film Glass by M. Night Shyamalan? Are you excited for it? And have you read any of the influential comic books that helped M. Night Shyamalan come up with this creative universe known as Glass, Unbreakable, and Split, the East Trail 177 trilogy?
Yeah, let us know in the comments below what you guys thought, if you've seen any of the previous films, and what you're excited for in Glass. Alright, so up next we're going to be talking about the 3rd season of True Detective, which comes out on January 13th.
Another one of our favorite HBO shows.
That's right.
Next to Game of Thrones and Silicon Valley.
And it's been quite a long wait, actually. The last time there was a season of True Detective was back in 2015.
I mean, we got season 1 in 2014, then season 2 in 2015, and now what?
5 years later.
5 years later, finally season 3, which brings us to our topic question here. Why did it take so long for us to get a season 3 out of True Detective?
Well, season 2 had a lot to do with that, unfortunately.
Wow.
It just wasn't as well received as the first season. And it's understandable, because the very first season was, one of those rare shows where just right out the gate, I mean, it was just a hit. It was really well done. It was very well written.
World needs bad men. We keep the other bad men from the door.
It had a great story, great cast. And I think that season 2 had too much to live up to. I don't think it could quite meet the mark.
Right. Now, True Detective was created by novelist and screenwriter Nick Pizzolatto.
That's right.
And Nick is one of my favorite writers. I have loved his work. I've read all of his work, all of his written work, Galveston, and including the inspiration between Here and the Yellow Sea, which I brought a copy for our show today. And honestly, his writing is so deep, it's so meaningful, that that's why it carries so well into season 1. Nick wrote all of season 1, and he wrote the beginning of season 2. Scott Lacer, he took over for him after that, adapting his novel Galveston into a feature film.
Oh, okay.
So, and then of course, first season of True Detective, the principal photography was shot in November of 2013, and of course we had the release date in January of 2014.
That's right.
Which was and everything for this first season was shot in 35 millimeter film, very similar to what Christopher Nolan does with his films. Which is really cool.
Yeah, it's really
cool that they decided to go that route instead of a digital route. Began to adapt. They first were opting into shooting it in Arkansas, I was told. And then Nick really wanted that authenticity, that southernness to it. So then they opted to move the production to Louisiana, also for tax exemption purposes and to help for tax purposes and help them out with the production.
Right.
But so they moved there, and then of course season 2, then they bring it to California, and now with season 3, we're going back to Arkansas again to shoot this.
Back in the Ozarks.
In the Ozarks.
That's right.
That's what I'm really excited to see in season 3. Okay, is to see what this case is being built up for us, the mystery of it all, because the Ozarks it's a pretty scary place to be, you know?
Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with the success of season 1. I think the fact that it was set in Louisiana and it had that Southern Gothic theme going for it.
Right.
I think that really added to its appeal. And I think when you took audiences out of that and put them into the city of Los Angeles, I think it made for a very different tone.
It does.
And I think that kind of took away from the allure.
It does. It does for a series like this.
And that's part of the reason why they're going back to Arkansas now. They're kind of going back to that same kind of environment that season 1 took place in. So I think that's going to make season 3 a lot more successful as well.
The other thing I found very interesting between, obviously, from past seasons that we're going to probably see in this new season is we're going to see, you know, that duality between the two main detectives. We're going to see the opposition between these two characters a little bit more than we did in, like, say, season 2, when we had you know, 2 detectives, an officer, and so many other elements being thrown at us. So
yeah, I think that's one thing that worked against season 2. Season 1 was really well received, and it was really well done because of the fact that it had a lot to do with that partnership between Rust and Marty. In season 1, we had the story taking place in 2012 when Rust and Marty are both asked to go over the details of the original Dora Lang case in 1995. So right there we've got those 2 timelines, and we see everything that's happening in the present and everything that happened in the past,
right,
as it's being retold by the 2 retired detectives. So I think that's something, you know, you mentioned in season 2 we had so many different characters. You know, we had Colin Farrell's character, we had Rachel McAdams, and Taylor Kitsch. I think that going back to that format where it's just 2 detectives is going to really do a lot of good for season 3 as well.
It will.
And speaking of those 2 detectives, if our audience isn't aware of what season 3 is about, as you mentioned, it takes place in Arkansas, in the Ozarks.
In the Ozarks,
and
right.
It involves a mystery of 2 missing children that first occurred in 1980, and then they revisit the case again in 1990 and in 2015 when our main character, retired detective Wayne Hayes, is a 70-year-old man. And of course his partner, who was working with him on the original case, was played by Stephen Dorff, who is Detective Roland West.
I saw that they had casted him, and I was like, this is an interesting casting choice for this, but I'm definitely looking forward to. And also I saw that Ray Fisher, Cyborg himself, is going to be in this season.
Yes, that's right. He plays Henry Hayes, who I believe has some relation to our main character.
Okay. This should be interesting. So, from season 1, did you like season 1 of True Detective?
I loved it. Yeah, it was one of the, you know, at the time it was like one of my favorite shows.
I liked
it still is. It still is one of my favorites.
Okay. Yeah, I liked it too. Honestly, it had the rhythm and the pacing from the editing was perfect. But it was the cinematography and the acting, and of course, the dialogue rang so true with these characters.
Yeah.
That's what made me hooked on True Detective. I was obsessed with it. That's why I had to go out and get all of Nick's work, because I was really, really engulfed with this story. And then season 2 comes around, and honestly, season 2 was just as entertaining for me. I found it interesting. What did you think of season 2?
I mean, I stuck around for the duration. I watched all of season 2, but unfortunately I could tell right away that I wasn't pulled in, and you know, I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as the first season. So Brian, what did you think of season 2 of True Detective?
Overall, I enjoyed it. Obviously, I really like Colin Farrell's character. His character was really well thought out. The dialogue with his particular character was very similar to that of Rusty Cole's, very, very real. But I do like the struggle of his character and Rachel McAdams' character, and how they were both kind of just, she was trying to fit into a man's world, and he was trying to balance both his personal life and his professional life together. And I found that to be very interesting. However, some of this other individuals within the story didn't quite ring true, and it kind of fell flat with their stories and kind of trailed off from the main story of this corrupted political figure. So that's why I found it to be very enjoyable, but I enjoyed season 1 way more.
Yeah, likewise. And I can definitely, you know, I have my fingers crossed that HBO is going to be able to redeem themselves with this 3rd season.
Me too.
I think they will. I've been hearing a lot of positive reviews so far, so I'm excited for season 3 of True Detective.
You're excited for season 3?
I am, yeah.
I'm excited too. So, everybody, let us know if you're excited for season 3 of True Detective, and of course, let us know if you're fans of the show overall. We love to find new fans of this series in particular. But this brings us to our final thing for our episode, which is our recommendation.
That's
which,
right.
Of course, we're talking about True Detective.
So this month's recommendation is season 1 of True Detective, starring Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, and Michelle Moynihan. It was directed by Cary Fukunaga, and it tells the story of two former detective partners, Rust Cole and Martin Hart, who in 2012 are asked to go over the details of one of their very first cases together, involving a serial killer and a murder that took place back in 1995. So go out and get yourself a copy today.
Yeah, sit down, watch all of True Detective. You're going to be binging this for sure. And then, of
That's
course,
right.
you get around to it, watch Season 2, because Season 3 starts when, Steve?
January 13th.
January 13th. So let us know in the comments below if you're excited for the new season of True Detective, if you're going to go out and see Glass, and if you're excited for the film. And, of course, don't forget to join us here next time on Popcorn Feed.
That's right, that does it for us this time, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave us a comment below, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media.
Social media is across the board, people.
I'm your host, Steve.
I'm your other host, Brian.
Until next time.
See ya.